and you keep out the propaganda. You see, every time your eyes, you keep on fearing those dying eyes. Animalistic to a cannibalistic, and how many people really know feeling?
Over the world are introducing, my goodness me, in this country, Britain, austerity programs which are taking away the basic benefits from the most vulnerable of people who have been made more vulnerable by the economic crash caused by the banks. And so the governments are in that stage two I was talking about now, where they cannot react. And the idea, stage three, is to create another massive economic crash. Governments have no response ability at all. So the bankers, people like Soros, who's a front man for the Rothschilds, come forward and say, this is how we must sort it out. And he's now openly making those overtures, as you mentioned earlier. So we're seeing this reaching another level of playing out, where the predictions the second time over the rainbow is now in our face, and we're seeing it. And what's happening in the Middle East, Alex, over the picture up on the screen, that picture is of countries that are, and there are more, that are targeted to be taken over by the NATO, European Union, North American cabal. When I say that, it's not the British doing this or the Americans doing this. It's being done through those countries, using those countries, but actually the American government and the British government and the French government with old Sarkozy and stuff, they're just satellites of this global cabal. They're not representatives of the people of those countries.
They were captured by the banking cartel many centuries ago, many of them.
Yes, they were.
They're engines.
They're vehicles, and the governments of the world are, the vast majority of them anyway, and they want to make it all of them, are actually like transnational corporations, subsidiary companies of the global, company, and they carry out the orders of the centrally dictated headquarters of this network. And that's why, as you pointed out earlier, we're seeing the same things being introduced in countries all over the world at the same time. This is how it's done. If we look at that map, first of all, it's worth looking to the right, where Somalia and Ethiopia and a place called Djibouti, just across the sea from Yemen. That is the African base of AFRICOM. Now, what the American military, and the American military too, is just a satellite military of the global cabal. They call it the American military, but it's not. It has all that money spent on it, fantastic amounts of money. So it basically spends more money on the military, America, than the rest of the world.
Well, notice the French have now invaded via NATO the Ivory Coast and are backing the rebels slaughtering people. This is AFRICOM moving into Africa.
Exactly. But the reason so much fantastic amounts of money are spent on the American military is not for the benefit of the American people. It's because that is at the moment the main point of military imposition for the cabal. And of course, Britain being one of the great centres of the cabal, not the British government, but the City of London, etc., it's always in the slipstream of America when it goes into a country. So from AFRICOM, it was created during the Bush administration, and the question is, why has America got an African command? Well, it's Africa. Well, the idea is to pick these countries off. And speaking of Brzezinski, in his book Grand Chessboard in 1998, he said that the key area to control the world is what he calls Eurasia. And Eurasia is basically Europe across to China and then down into the Middle East. And what we've seen, Alex, over the last many years is that process of picking off the key areas of Eurasia, and now they're moving into Africa. What they want, for a start, is to take the whole of those North African countries over, Morocco, Algeria, Libya, Egypt, where of course they've had the trouble. There's now protests in Jordan and Syria. They're the target countries too. They've got Iraq, they're in there, and then bingo, there's the big one to the right of Iraq, Iran. They're already in Afghanistan. They're totally go into Bahrain and create and commit terrible atrocities to suppress the people's rebellion in Bahrain, and been allowed to do it with no reaction and no condemnation while everything's targeted on Libya, is because they want to play Saudi Arabia, that is overwhelmingly a Sunni Muslim country, and others around it. They want to use them in their targeting of Iran, which is really the center of the Shiite Muslim world. It's dominated Iran by Shiite Muslims, and so if they get Iran, this is the irony, if they get Iran by using Saudi Arabia and these others to support that, then Saudi Arabia will be the next one to go, because there won't be any use to the cabal and the agenda anymore. And at the moment we've got this extraordinary situation, really, where the United Arab Emirates have sent planes to join the NATO force to protect civilians, it says, in Libya, while at the same time they've sent their troops into Bahrain to stop civilians with protests with violence.
I want to stop you. It's incredible. I want to stop you just briefly and remind folks that the Obama deception that came out 2 years ago, All the Republic that came out a year ago, we predict with our experts in both these films that African would launch wars all over Africa, starting in North Africa. Webster Tarpley predicted that with precision, off following Zbigniew Brzezinski and other people's statements. So you can show people these two DVDs and explain to them, look at the date of it, and that's what really gets people's attention, is that we understand the globalist program. David, I watch CNN, Fox, you name it now. It is so dumbed down. But what's scary is you have Jay Rockefeller, all these other globalists saying they want to shut down the alternative media now. They are scared because we're not dumbed down. We're watching what they're actually doing, and they're beginning to panic.
Yes, absolutely. But, in Libya, what's happening there now, Alex, is a classic a kind of accumulation of so many things that pull this together. First of all, Libya, and I've got no grief for Colonel Gaddafi. I want no dictators to just do it, but we're going to be streetwise. We have to see the shades of grey within the black and white that is given to us on the television news. And they have a central bank which issues the currency, and if you do business with Libya, you go through the central bank. That's the last thing this